everyone, this is Mumbo and welcome back to another video on the second channel. And today we're going to be doing something that I didn't initially plan, but I thought was a sensible idea. I'm sure all of you have seen my Australia video by now. It was all very brief and all very quick, and I feel like I should have gone into a little bit more detail to do with the canyoning, because that was definitely one of my favourite parts of the holiday. So that's what we're going to be doing today. As you can see, I strapped a GoPro to my forehead for most of the day, so I've got plenty of footage to show you guys. Now first off, I'm a complete beginner at this sort of thing, so they decided not to chuck me straight into the canyon, but instead it took me right the way up to the top of the Blue Mountains and we did a little bit of abseiling training. Now the first one that I did was absolutely tiny. It was like an 8-meter cliff face, but it was a really good way to get me accustomed with going over the edge, because that definitely is the most scary part, and also all of the equipment that you have to use. For example, the thing that you can see in front of you on the screen is known as a descender. Now this is essentially a friction device, and it stops you falling right the way down to the ground, which obviously wouldn't be particularly brilliant. So my first cliff went absolutely fine. The next one that we moved on to was a little bit bigger, and when I say a little bit bigger, I mean considerably bigger, at least in my opinion. It was a 25-meter high cliff, but it's at the top of a valley, which means that it looks incredibly tall when you're standing up at the top there. Now I'm not particularly scared of heights, but there is something really quite frightening about stepping off the edge of a cliff and walking down that cliff face. But once you've done that, it's absolutely fine. I managed to look around, take a look at the sights, because seriously, it is absolutely breathtaking when you're up at the top there. With the clear blue skies, the valley falling away underneath you, seriously beautiful stuff. Anyway, enough talk of abseiling and things, let's head over to the canyon. Now first off, we had to walk in. It wasn't a particularly long walk, it was about a 20-minute walk to the Empress Falls Canyon, which is absolutely tiny in the world of canyoning. The people that we were with, they are like really good at that sort of thing. They do it for fun and all that, and there have been a few where they've had to like trek in for a couple days, and then they do the canyon, then they have to trek out for the next couple days. Seriously, it's a massive event. The one that we did really was absolutely tiny in comparison. So we trekked in, 20 minutes, we're there, we chuck on our wetsuits and then dive straight into the water. Literally, there was straight away just a pool to jump into. I didn't really know what to expect because I've never done anything like this before, and the first thing that I thought was, do I really need this wetsuit? Like that's what I was thinking. I was like, how wet am I actually going to get? Turns out really quite wet. Yeah, there's a lot of jumping into water. There's a lot of going through water streams and things like that. And yeah, I was completely soaked through from the minute we set foot in the canyon. Now, unfortunately, at this point, my GoPro had a little bit of water on the lens, which means that a lot of the footage is sort of like blown out and a lot of the lights are sort of streaking across the screen. But I'm sure you can roughly see what's going on. I can safely say that the video doesn't really do it justice, which really is unfortunate. I mean, that is just the way these things go, unfortunately. In low light especially, the cameras do struggle, but it was breathtaking. It seriously was breathtaking. You're standing in this canyon, you've got all of the foliage and all of the vegetation sort of hanging down off the top of the cliffs, and you can see all of the sunlight pouring in. It's an incredible experience, and if anyone is near the Blue Mountains, if you live in Australia, would highly suggest doing this canyon. Obviously don't do it on your own because it is quite dangerous, but just go with like a group or something like that and do it, because it's incredible. It really is incredible. But anyway, we popped through the canyon once again. As I say, loads of water, loads of jumps, loads of different slides and things that you have to do, including like bracing yourself up against rock walls and that sort of stuff. And then we reached the end of the canyon itself, which, as I mentioned earlier on, is a 30-meter high waterfall. Now, I didn't know it was a waterfall. I knew there was an abseil at the end of it, but I hadn't realised it was a waterfall abseil, which is a little bit more difficult than obviously your average abseil, because you've got tons of water hitting you. But not only that, the actual rock wall itself, like the cliff face, is really quite slippery, which means that you have to be extra careful and you have to make sure that you're extra horizontal, which is frightening to say the least, because you have to sort of teeter on the edge and then lower yourself down so that you're horizontal with the cliff face, and then begin to step down so that you're really sure-footed on it. And this cliff face had a really big overhang, as you can see in the footage there, and to say the least, I was scared of it. I was really quite scared, but I managed to make it down. I didn't slip up. I managed to keep my hand way behind my back, which is where it needs to be with these descenders, and I managed to lower myself down into the bottom. Now at the bottom there, you can see one of the people that I was working with. The plan was that I was going to belay, which is what he was doing there, which basically means if I moved my hand away from the descender or put my hands up against the wall, he could pull the rope tight so that I don't fall, because otherwise, as I just mentioned, I would actually fall down the cliff face. So that was his job. But unfortunately, because I'm not very talented at that sort of thing, and I couldn't actually like get myself off the rope or anything like that, he sort of sorted me out, and then I swam off to the shore and basically recovered myself. But all in all, it was absolutely awesome, and I loved the canyon experience. It was extremely exciting, and as I say, if that sort of thing existed near me, which it sort of does but sort of doesn't, but it's nowhere near as attractive in the UK because of course we always just get rain and things, I would do it 100% all of the time. So next time I go to Australia, definitely going to be doing that sort of thing again. Maybe we could like step up the canyon a little bit, but awesome stuff, and I really enjoyed it. But anyway, that is my canyoning experience. I hope you enjoyed this slightly longer video. I've enjoyed making it, and I'll catch you in the next one.